Hey everybody, today we are going to be talking about an example of imperialism in Africa. And one of our case studies is going to be imperialism in the Congo. And we're going to see the country of Belgium go to the Congo to imperialize for various reasons. So, our learning objectives for today is to explain the relationship between industrialization and the extraction of raw materials in colonies as it pertains to Belgium and the Congo, and then compare the viewpoints of colonizers and colonized groups, because both of them are going to view imperialism very differently. So let's review some context and what's going on at the time. So remember, we have this scramble for Africa taking place, and European powers like Belgium are going to compete to invade and colonize as much of Africa as they can, largely for power, right? Getting that national glory. And as you guys know, that there are other reasons as well, there's other causes, but largely for power. And the scramble for Africa is really going to take place at something called the Berlin Conference. So in 1814, 14 European countries meet in Berlin. That's why it's called the Berlin Conference to divide up Africa between all nations present. And they're going to try to do so evenly, right? But of course, as you saw from the map activity that we did, there are some countries that have more colonies than others. So, this is what the Berlin Conference results in, this African cake, right? You can see Great Britain has quite a bit of land, and also we said France. What we are going to be focusing on today is this middle section of Africa that Belgium takes over, largely the Democratic Republic of Congo for this particular instance. So, as we talk about these two questions, make sure you're listening and writing the answers on your note sheet. So, why would they, Europeans, want to do this? Why would they want to cut up Africa, scramble for different pieces? Remember that we have those four causes of imperialism, the three G's and the R. So we have gold first, and right, these countries are industrializing and they need resources. They need labor to get their resources to make their products, and they need places to then sell those products. And colonies really provided that for Europeans. We also see that glory, right? Glory meaning nationalism. There's this pride for European countries at the time, and they want to share their superiority and gain as much power as they can. And then we see God as well, religious motives. So, because the Europeans believed that their religion of Christianity was superior, they sent missionaries to these countries in order to convert them to Christianity. And then racism as well, right? That white man's burden, where we see Europeans believing that they are superior in terms of race, and that it is the responsibility of the Europeans to civilize and share their Western traditions, their culture with the native people. Now, at the Berlin Conference for this second question, and you can take a moment and pause if you'd like. How many Africans do you think were present and why? Go ahead and pause and you can go ahead and predict and take a guess. But at the Berlin Conference, no Africans were present at the Berlin Conference. There were none. So this was done without African approval, right? And this is because of that kind of racism component, right? The Europeans did not believe that Africans were, fit to make that type of decision, right? They needed to be saved. They needed to be civilized. So they were not a part of that decision. And you can imagine, right, likely if they were part of that decision to cut up the continent, they would not have allowed Europeans to do that and take away some of their rights and freedoms in their homeland. Now, let's think about who is involved in this particular case study of Belgium and the Congo. So, first we have Belgium. And Belgium in our scenario is the colonizer. So they are the one doing the taking over, doing the colonizing, and benefiting from the relationship. And Belgium is this really tiny country in Europe, right in between France, Germany, and the Netherlands. So if you look at this zoomed out map right down here, it is that tiny, tiny country. So very, very small. And it is established in 1830. So at this point, it's a relatively new country, and it's going to try and prove itself amongst France and Great Britain. And they are led by King Leopold II, and he is going to be someone that we focus our attention on in the next activity. And then we have the Congo, and that is the colonized. So they are the ones getting taken over, and they are the ones that do not necessarily benefit from the relationship. They're the ones that lose out. And Congo or the Congo is this shaded area on your map of Africa right here. So you can see it's very, very large. And it is made up of 14 independent ethnic groups that are going to govern themselves. But as we looked at when we talked about how Europeans were able to colonize, right, there was not a lot of consistency or unity in the Congo at this time. There was no written language, so the communication was very difficult among these ethnic groups. They were not united. And that ultimately allowed for the Belgians having an easier time colonizing and taking over that country. And the Congo has lots of natural resources, particularly rubber and precious metals. And Belgium is going to turn its attention to this country for those resources as we are in this age of industrialization. And we are also going to talk about a guy named Henry Morton Stanley. You'll see his name pop up. He is a famous explorer. This is him right here on the left. And he was originally from Britain, but he grew up in America. And he was a reporter, but ended up working for King Leopold of Belgium. And his responsibility was to explore the Congo, make treaties with the native people, speak with and work with the native people, and try to get what King Leopold wanted for his country of Belgium. And then King Leopold himself. So again, he is the King of Belgium, and he is really, he's related to the Queen of England at the time, and he wants his country to be just as powerful as England. And he knows that to do that, part of what he has to do is form colonies. So he is going to set his sights on the Congo. And at this time, we're seeing the end of the popularity of the slave trade. Many Europeans are starting to think that slavery should be abolished. So, what King Leopold does is he tells European newspapers that in his goal in the Congo and in Africa is to abolish slavery. So, what we are going to do is kind of evaluate that decision and see if that was his true intentions by going into the Congo. And like I said, our questions that we're going to look at in our next activity is what were King Leopold's intentions in Africa? Did he really want to abolish slavery there? So, our learning objectives explain the relationship between industrialization and the extraction of raw materials in colonies, and compare the viewpoints of colonizers and colonized groups, looking at Belgium and the Congo to explain both of these. So, make sure to answer those questions in Edpuzzle and let me know if you guys have questions. Talk to you soon.